The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the glass-walled boardroom. Every head turned. A streak of hot coffee slid across the CEO's silver laptop. And the janitor who'd spilled it froze, mop handle still trembling in his hand. "Sir, what are you doing here?" snapped an executive. "This floor's restricted." But before he could answer, the screen began to flicker, codes flashing, windows opening, and what appeared next made the CEO's heart stop. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Jake Lawson, 37, stood in stunned silence, clutching a soggy napkin like it was a lifeline. He'd been cleaning conference rooms for 5 years without ever making a sound. Yet now, every eye in that sleek glass tower was on him. I'm sorry, ma'am," he stammered. It slipped out of my hand. Claire Whitman, 42, the steel-eyed CEO of Whitman Dynamics, didn't blink. Her voice was low, deliberate. "Do you have any idea what that system was running?" Jake swallowed hard. "No, ma'am. I'll pay for the damage if I have to." "You couldn't afford the damage," muttered one of the engineers under his breath. Jake said nothing. He'd heard that tone before, the kind people used when they looked at his uniform instead of his face. But then something happened. The laptop, which had been black-screened for days, suddenly lit up. Code scrolled rapidly, green lines moving across the monitor like a heartbeat coming back to life. "Wait a second," one engineer whispered. That's the encrypted prototype file." Claire leaned forward, her frown tightening. "It's responding?" Another tech nodded slowly. "It shouldn't be. That firewall's been dead for a month. How?" Jake rubbed the back of his neck. "I just wiped the spill before it hit the drive. Guess I got lucky." The younger tech stared at him, astonished. "You manually grounded the surge path. That's, advanced instinct, man. You basically rerouted the circuit and saved the data." Claire turned sharply toward Jake. "In English, please." The tech grinned nervously. "He saved your $40 million system, ma'am." A long silence filled the room. Even the air conditioning hum seemed to stop. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears. He couldn't tell if he was about to be fired or thanked. Claire finally spoke. "Get me his employment file." The HR rep blinked. "His file, ma'am?" "Yes," she said evenly. "Right now." Jake stood there, rags still dripping, unsure whether to apologize again or just disappear. That night, back in his tiny apartment on the city's east side, Jake kicked off his steel-toed boots and sighed. His son, 8-year-old Lucas, ran from the couch holding a crayon drawing. "Dad, my school's having a science fair. Can you help me build a robot?" Jake smiled faintly, the exhaustion softening in his eyes. "We'll see, buddy. I've got to fix something at work first." Lucas tilted his head. "You're always fixing things." Jake chuckled. "That's kind of my job, champ." "Then maybe you can fix me a superhero suit," Lucas said, grinning. Jake laughed, pulling him into a hug. "If I had the time, I'd build us both one." As his son drifted off to sleep, Jake sat by the window, staring out at the glowing skyline. Somewhere up there, his accident had caught the attention of a woman who could change his entire life, or end it before sunrise. And as if the universe wanted to answer his thought, his phone buzzed. "Report to the CEO's office at 8 a.m. Jake exhaled slowly. "Well," he muttered, "there goes my quiet life." The next morning, Jake showed up 10 minutes early, his mop bucket left behind this time. The elevator hummed softly as it climbed to the top floor, his reflection flickering in the chrome doors. His heart raced, not from fear exactly, but from the heavy uncertainty of a man who'd lived long enough to know that being noticed rarely ended well. When the doors opened, Claire Whitman's assistant was already waiting. "Mr. Lawson, right this way." Jake nodded politely, following her into a pristine office that looked more like a museum than a workspace. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, sunlight spilling over marble and steel. Claire stood by the window, her back turned, speaking quietly into her headset. "I don't care what procurement says," she snapped. "If we lose that contract, 50 families lose their paychecks. Find a solution." She hung up, inhaled slowly, and turned to face him. "Mr. Lawson, take a seat." Jake sat down carefully, unsure if he should breathe too loudly. Claire's tone was measured, her gaze sharp. "You've been with the company for, 3 years?" "5, he corrected softly. Her brows lifted. "5? And no one in management ever noticed your background?" Jake shrugged. "Didn't seem relevant when I was cleaning bathrooms." She opened a folder, his file, and slid it toward him. "Bachelor's in electrical engineering, previous employment at Trent Systems. Then..." She glanced up. "Nothing. Why did you leave?" Jake looked down at his calloused hands. "They shut the division down. I had a son to feed. Janitorial work was steady. Didn't matter what the title said as long as the paycheck cleared." Claire studied him for a moment. "And yet, yesterday, you restored a system that our IT department couldn't salvage in 3 weeks." He shifted uneasily. "Honestly, ma'am, I just didn't want to see something go to waste. I figured..." "You figured correctly," she interrupted, though her voice softened. "That prototype was worth $40 million in contracts." Jake blinked, stunned. 40, yes, she said, lips curving slightly. "And your accident just saved it." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Well, glad I didn't spill 2 cups then." That made her laugh, just barely. A small, human sound that surprised them both. "You're not like the others," she said after a beat. "Most people would have run or blamed someone else. You stayed." He shrugged again, modestly. "You stay for the people you can help. My boy taught me that. Kindness isn't weakness, it's maintenance." Her eyes flickered with something she hadn't shown anyone in years, respect. Just then, her phone buzzed again. She sighed and answered. "Hi, sweetheart. Yes, I'm fine. No, Mommy won't be late tonight. Promise." Jake caught sight of the framed photo on her desk. A young girl in a wheelchair, grinning beside her. He smiled faintly. When she hung up, he asked gently, "Your daughter?" Claire nodded, voice quieter now. "Ella. She's 10. Car accident last year. Doctors say she might walk again, but..." She stopped, shaking her head. "I work to make sure she never feels limited." Jake's face softened. "I get that. My son's got asthma. Those hospital bills, they don't care how hard you work." For the first time, the air between them wasn't corporate. It was human. 2 tired parents holding up their worlds the only way they knew how. Claire leaned forward, her tone shifting. "How would you feel about leaving janitorial behind?" Jake blinked. "Ma'am, I want you on my systems team," she said. "You see things others miss. That's what innovation is." He hesitated. "You sure you want a janitor sitting next to your engineers?" She smiled. "No. I want an engineer who refused to quit sitting next to my best people." He let out a low chuckle. "And what if I mess up again?" "Then you'll learn," she said simply. "That's how I did it." Jake nodded, still stunned. "All right then, Guess I better buy a tie. She smirked. Don't. You'd make the rest of us look lazy. They both laughed quietly. As he stood to leave, she said, Jake, one more thing. He turned back. You said your son has asthma? Yeah, why? I have an opening in the company clinic support program, she said. Covers treatment costs for employees' children. Consider it a thank you. Jake blinked, speechless. Ma'am, I can't. It's not charity, she interrupted firmly. You saved my company. Let me help your family. For a long second, he couldn't speak. Then he managed, voice low. Thank you, Claire. Her smile was small but real. Get some rest, Jake. Tomorrow, we start something new. He walked out of that office feeling 10 feet taller. For the first time in years, the elevator ride down didn't feel like a descent. It felt like the beginning of something worth climbing for. And as the city lights flickered across his reflection in the metal doors, Jake whispered to himself, maybe this time, I'm not just cleaning floors. Maybe I'm finally building something. Jake showed up early again the next morning, but this time, not in his janitor's uniform. He wore a crisp blue shirt and clean jeans, the same steel-toed boots that had carried him through 100 late nights. When he walked into the tech lab, a few engineers glanced up from their monitors, whispering quietly. That's him, the janitor guy, someone muttered. Didn't he spill coffee on the CEO's laptop? Another asked. Jake just smiled politely and kept walking. He'd heard worse. He found an empty workstation at the back of the room and quietly started reviewing the damaged code database Claire had sent him the night before. Hours passed. The hum of servers filled the silence until a small voice broke it. You're Jake, right? I'm Mason. A young engineer, mid-20s, offered his hand. I saw what you did in that boardroom. That was insane. Jake shook his hand. Thanks. Still trying to figure out how I didn't get fired for it. Mason grinned. Claire doesn't keep people around unless she sees something in them. Jake glanced through the glass walls where Claire stood on a call, her expression sharp but calm. She looked different from yesterday, still composed, but not cold. Every so often, her eyes flicked toward him. By noon, the lab fell into chaos again. The backup servers crashed mid-test, alarms buzzing across the control room. Not again? One of the engineers groaned. We're losing data? Jake didn't wait. He moved instinctively, unplugging a module and rerouting a line through the diagnostic port. Someone kill the main power before the circuits burn out, he shouted. Claire rushed in just as the lights dimmed. For 10 long seconds, everyone held their breath. Then, slowly, the system rebooted, fully functional. The room erupted in applause. Claire stared at him, astonished. How did you know what to do? Jake shrugged, trying to catch his breath. You fix one old Chevy with duct tape and a prayer, you learn how current flows? That made her laugh. Really laugh this time. Jake Lawson, the engineer mechanic janitor who saves prototypes and servers. He smiled, rubbing the back of his neck. Guess I like fixing broken things. Claire tilted her head, watching him. Maybe that's why we needed you here. That night, Jake drove home feeling lighter. Lucas waited on the couch with a cardboard robot on the table. Dad, look, he can move now. Jake laughed and knelt beside him. You did this yourself? Mostly, Lucas said proudly. But I saved a spot for you to fix the wiring. Jake grabbed the soldering tool, the same calm settling over him that he felt whenever things finally made sense. All right, partner. Let's finish what we started. They worked until midnight, laughter filling the tiny apartment. And for once, it didn't feel like a struggle. It felt like living. The next morning, when Jake arrived at the office, Claire was waiting with a visitor's pass for a smaller figure standing beside her, a bright-eyed girl in a wheelchair. "Jake, this is my daughter, Ella." Ella looked up at him shyly. "Mom says you're a real-life superhero." Jake chuckled. "Only on Thursdays." Lucas peeked out from behind him, clutching a juice box. "You have wheels? That's awesome." Ella giggled. "You have an asthma pump? That's awesome too." The two kids started talking like they'd known each other forever, while Claire and Jake stood quietly nearby. "You brought your son?" she asked softly. "He wanted to meet the nice lady who helps people," Jake said. Her expression softened. "Funny. I was thinking the same about you." Later that week, the company unveiled its rebuilt prototype. The board members who once rolled their eyes at Jake now crowded around him, asking questions. Claire took the stage and said clearly, "Sometimes, leadership isn't about finding new talent. It's about recognizing the talent that's been standing right under your nose." Then she motioned to Jake. "This man saved our company twice in a month. But more than that, he reminded us that kindness and grit still matter in a world run by algorithms." Applause filled the room. Jake stood there, stunned, every spotlight burning brighter than any moment in his life. When it was over, Claire approached him. "You ever think about heading a department?" He laughed. "I think I just learned where the on switch is." "I'm serious," she said. "You've got more heart and brains than half the execs upstairs, and I'd rather work with someone who cares." Jake nodded slowly. "I'll take that as the best compliment I've ever had." Claire smiled faintly. "You earned it." That evening, Jake drove home with Lucas asleep in the back seat. He parked by the curb and looked up at the stars just beginning to pierce through the city haze. His reflection stared back at him in the window. Same man, same hands, same tired eyes. But something inside him had shifted. He whispered, more to himself than anyone, "You were right, kiddo. Kindness does come back." Inside, on his kitchen counter, sat a folded note Claire had slipped into his briefcase earlier. It read, "To the man who fixed more than our machines. You reminded me that people like you keep this world running. CW." Jake smiled, eyes glistening. And somewhere 50 floors above, Claire stood by her window, watching the city lights below. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about numbers or deadlines. She was thinking about a janitor who'd spilled coffee, saved her company, and, in the process, cleaned more than her desk. He'd cleaned the dust off her heart.